Welcome.
This is the season finale of Practically Happy Season 1.
Juan. Uno.
Season 1.
We did not get a Juan on this episode, Juan.
Speaking of getting people on episodes.
That's our intention for season 2.
Season 2, we're going to be inviting guests on Practically Happy, which is going to be very exciting. We already have some people in the works scheduled for next episodes.
It'll be very, very interesting to get a lot more perspectives on the creative lifestyle. You've heard us talk about it, but it will be nice to know how other people are faring in the space.
Yes. Our intention is for season 2 to be pretty guest heavy. And what's interesting is that we've gotten some reactions to prior episodes from these guests. So it could be very interesting to revisit some of these topics with guests who either agree or disagree with us.
Some fresh thoughts.
If you, the audience members, are a creative or make creative lifestyle decisions in your daily lives, if you live a life that's, not necessarily your average life.
If you're not the average Joe, hit us up.
Please consider coming on the podcast. We are at Raser and Rhodes on Instagram, and introduce yourself and what you might want to talk about, whatever it is that you do.
Whatever you have to bring to the conversation, as we've brought in our own personal experiences and our own projects, we would love to hear about your creative journeys and how you've associated them to the world we live in today.
So today we're going to do a little bit of a celebratory episode to wrap things up for Practically Happy Season 1. We are a creative living podcast, so we thought it could be fitting to talk about our creative journeys thus far this year, and also jump into a new segment that we're going to be calling Divisive Crit.
Divisive Crit. Which we'd love to have be an ongoing thing in episodes going through season 2.
It's kind of a reaction to our art school experience. We would have critiques in art school.
Every day?
Every project.
Or it was at least every large project, we would get together and we would just pin our shit to a wall. It would just be everyone in the class's shit on a wall. You would see all of it. And you would have to just go from left to right or whatever order and just dread having to present the folly that you have made an exception as art.
It was kind of a dick size contest in the way that people would try to be very intellectual. So it was who had the best comment about this piece of art?
I loved the juxtaposition of your line weight and the contrast in the underboob of this figure drawing we did.
So in Divisive Crit, we are not trying to be intelligent at all. We are just trying to be opinionated and actually say something of substance.
We are today going to bring forward a couple pieces of art that we think we either like or dislike that are somewhat divisive, that can
we have
be
strong
argued
opinions
against
about.
our opinions on.
Yeah.
Someone will not like our opinion.
I might not like your opinion.
I don't like your opinion.
See, that's how it's going to go. So stay tuned.
For the entirety of season 2 as well, when we hope to bring in your divisive crits.
Yes, please comment your favorite, least favorite works of art. This can be music, this can be sculpture, this can be literature.
As I've said in episode 8, if there's a spoon that you saw and you fucking hated it, I would love to hear.
And we will give you our raw, unbridled reactions.
I will be taking sides.
Be prepared.
The interesting thing because we both went to Pratt Institute,
yes.
Our art crits was multidisciplinary.
Yes.
Every single type of student that came through that school had to be in these drawing classes, these light and color design classes, regardless of if you were in film, if you came there to draw and had prior experience, or if you were industrial design.
Right. So we had people there who just wanted to be animators, who were being forced to do industrial design. Yeah. And we had people who came there who just wanted to do fashion that were being forced to learn Photoshop, something unrelated.
And we had film people having to figure draw.
Right, yeah.
On the spot, next to someone who went to school prior to institution to do the same thing. And I would look over and see, oh, wow, that's the person in front of me. Look back at mine and it's wow, that's something I've never seen before.
And I had the opposite thing where I was into the figure drawing, but they wanted me to record audio and video. And I was I really need more instruction here. I don't
the technology literacy was something that like clicked with me. Drawing a hand, I to this day could not tell you how you appropriately like draw the thumb thing.
I can show you how to draw the thumb thing.
I've been told I paid money for someone to tell me, and I'm still bad at it.
Yo, I want to see. I'm so competitive. I'm like, this is a challenge. I can get this man to draw.
Maybe you should.
I was teaching 6-year-olds how to do still lifes the other day. Okay,
6-year-olds are they're a sponge. They are going to take in every bit of.
I didn't say they were any good at it.
Oh,
they did their best.
Never mind. I take it back.
Some of them
they were good at it.
Some of them were shockingly good, like for their age, right? Like the fact that you could like do something other than scribbles, I was like impressed.
I'm impressed that you didn't just draw a happy face on there. You actually drew eyes. For some reason, if they know how to very accurately draw an eye at 6 years old, they've seen some shit. This is not their first time around on this cosmic merry-go-round.
Mm-hmm. I can show you how to draw a hand.
I have one.
It's just shapes.
Yeah.
It's not more or less intimidating than any other thing that you could possibly draw. Everything is just shapes.
But then there's things inside of the shapes. And there's ways that the shapes connect to each other in ways that the shape wasn't shaping before.
So what you're telling me is that you're not very good at drawing because you overthink. But that makes you a good engineer, which makes sense.
It does make me a good engineer because those are the details I do have to think about.
Of the audio variety. We're talking
of the
about
audio variety.
Audio engineering.
If you ask me to put chemicals together, I will likely commit arson accidentally.
That is one of the reasons why we have such a fantastic podcast, by the way. I want to rep Cole, who is our audio engineer for this podcast. He also has a label called the Faraday Cage,
which I've been bullied into.
I'm doing this for you now.
Yeah, I know, because I'm bad at doing it myself.
And the Faraday Cage is a project where Cole can do this for you if you have a project that you need audio engineering for.
This is true. I've even been bullied into having a production tag in our new intro and outro that might be put on this episode or might be saved for season 2. I don't know.
Why not?
I was saving it for a special time like season 2, but I guess episode 9 is also pretty special.
It doesn't hurt to put yourself out there.
Wait till the end of the episode and my production tag will be in the end of the episode. I've been convinced and bullied into putting my production tag at the beginning of the episode, and I couldn't even do that, so I put it at the end. Thank you for your concern.
Can that be a production tag?
Thank you for your concern. So, we would like to start off the episode talking about our own creative journeys thus far in this year. A little bit of a check-in.
I wanted to see like what are the high points and low points of our lives as artists this year. I would be interested to know what is something that you have done that's felt successful to you, because like I think what artists have to do is like have a really strong sense of what they feel success is and have a different definition that works for them.
Yeah. Would you like to share?
I can go first, sure.
Yeah.
High points and low points of this year so far. So we started this podcast project at the beginning of the year.
Well, we recorded the first episode in like late January and then decided that wasn't good enough. And we scrapped it and went for take 2. Yeah, okay. So it took us some time to even get things moving.
We started working on what this project could look like starting in January.
I think I texted you in December.
Okay, so fine, we'll say December. And a lot's happened since then. We are actually recording this episode after a crazy week, which we've all experienced in this country. So just shout out to current events right there.
Shout out to everything going on that makes an already uncertain and fragile sense of security even more fragile and fleeting. It's so fun. And once again, a good time to address where you personally can find your sense of success, because the outside world's going to do whatever the fuck it does.
Very true. I find that there are points in my life where I'm like kind of at pace with how things are happening in the world, and points in my life where I'm like very much opposite. Just like as an example, I think I've talked about this on the pod before. COVID was a horrible time for humanity. It was a great time for me. Artistically.
Honestly, COVID didn't do me all that poorly.
Without the pressures of school and work even though I did still have some school and work, but the pressure was off.
Yeah.
I thrived as a creative because I allowed myself to explore, and that really
there was just time.
It was a real
to
blossoming
try
for me.
things.
Yeah. Right now is one of those times where I actually kind of feel like more at pace with the world. I feel like we're in like some great transition, and maybe that's how every period in human history feels. But this year has felt really transition-y. I really don't know what's to come. So I think if I can start with the low point, it's a lot about like confusion and not really understanding what's to come. I think the lowest I've been is like, there's this week that I don't have work and I want to be creative and productive and serving my purpose, but I don't really have a specific intention or idea, and it's not easy to just motivate or to create a schedule and to be disciplined around those things. So I think my low points of this year have been just like absolutely beating myself up for not taking advantage of the time that I've given myself to be a creative person and pursue the arts. And there have been a couple moments this year where I've just been like not nice to myself about the time that I'm spending not serving my purpose. And that led us into the productivity episode, where a strong argument would be that like time to rest and to be bored is actually really important.
The marination
if
process.
You allow yourself to have it.
Yeah.
And then high point this year, I could talk about like a couple times that I've shown art. That always feels good because other people see the work I've been doing in a public way and I'm there. It's not like I post something on Instagram and just receive.
You're physically in a space.
Yeah, being physically.
Like, look at what I did. I did that with my hands.
I guess I'm like more performative. I like that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, presenting work.
I mean, you're in the visual fine arts. That makes a lot of sense that you would want to be in the same space as the people viewing your art with the art.
Yeah. I think the other part of this year that's been really successful for me as an artist is like really solidifying my visual language, accepting that I like what I like to create and making more of that. I think there was a long time where I was trying to like push boundaries or be more interesting or like not necessarily just make figurative work because there's a lot of figurative work out there. So just kind of like ignoring that and just making what I'd like to make. And I think that has actually lended itself to me realizing a bunch of stuff that I am like stylistically invested in. I've been working on black a lot, bringing out light tones from black canvases.
Coming out from the shadow.
Yeah.
Which has been very cool to see, because I've known you through a lot of your different
experimental phases.
I remember earlier on you worked with like plastic substance.
Yeah.
Which honestly, like to this day, I think is like one of the cooler things I've actually seen. I even see that coming out in now that you're working on black, working in those like luminescent tones through black. It's not too dissimilar from the textural colored plastics that you used to work with. It just shows that you've built on a lot of little blocks over time, realizing that those little blocks, there's no use in pushing away blocks that you like purely because there's a stigma around it or someone's already done it. Because if that's really the reason, there's not a new idea under the sun, I think is the term.
Yeah, so I think positive takeaways from this year have been like the direction that my art is moving in, and negative takeaways from this year is that my relationship to allowing myself to have the space and time I need to create could definitely use some work. What about you?
What about me? So should I start on the low? I guess the low.
I like ending on a high.
So I came into this year wanting to make larger steps in the Faraday cage, as you've mentioned is my practice. And I wanted to spend a lot of my energy this year pushing forward a larger studio practice in creating a space to bring people in and be able to service people in a much more, I want to say personally affirming, because personally I work really good when I have like tactile control over my work. I make a change and I either have to change the physical medium of which I have altered my source, which oftentimes might have been committed on the spot, so I'll have to do it all over again, which can sometimes make you step away from those things that don't really need to be poked. Meanwhile, when anything is just like on a screen or in a computer. You can just poke it endlessly until it's all out of whack. But also when there's a tactile means of interacting with noise and people's intention and how it is being engineered and put into the box, the person then making the noise can come and poke at it as well and learn the engineering side. Because I'm very much of the mindset of I would love to share that passion for noise with other people. And that is so much better done in the engineering scene with tactile control over those things. Because I can explain a compressor to you all day and you probably wouldn't get the fuck. But I'd put you in front of one with noise going through it and you would twist knobs and you'd be like, okay, I kind of see what's happening now. Mm-hmm. Because you had some control and influence over it. But while and that's a high point for me.
Practically Happy takes place in Brooklyn.
It does take place in Brooklyn, and there are many noises that happen in Brooklyn.
Can be heard on Practically Happy.
Brooklyn can be heard on Practically Happy. Despite me spiritually being ready to take on a large project like the Faraday cage in its grander vision, I have found myself not ready to pursue it to the degree that I came into this year with, which is very disheartening to have to face. And I still have some time to figure out how to fill those gaps that I brushed aside because the passion was greater than the practicality to bring in the P word.
You do need a balance. I like that you said that you're spiritually ready, because if we want to jump into the juicy hot button topic of manifestation, I think that's one of the steps where like you feel that it's yours and you feel that it's meant to be. And
it's not even like I don't feel like I'm owed it, but I feel like I owe it to myself to put energy there.
Yeah.
Energy put out is in some way energy that you receive.
Yes.
What you put out into the world is what the world gives back to you.
Yes. And I think
I'm a believer in that.
Yes.
To a large degree.
And I think that you are living that in your defense. I think there's a ton of room for growth. That makes sense.
Yeah. If I have no room to grow, then oh my God.
Even this project is a great example of you putting forth what it is that you would like to do more of.
Then to move that into the high point, because it's
let's hear about it.
Exactly related, is in that sort of thing crumbling. And maybe this is a good time to bring up the tarot a little bit. One of my favorite cards in the deck is the Tower. The Tower used to come up all the time in my readings, and it still comes up quite often. I even have a little mushroom tower card on the back of my laptop that's recording this episode. Yeah. It is the destruction of something so that what can be built in its place can be better. Mm-hmm. Upright, of course. Reversed can mean that you're putting up walls as to not feel the harder feelings. And then you can...
good meanings either way.
It's great meanings either way. In accepting that I am not ready for the Faraday cage, despite the Faraday cage being spiritually present, it's forced me to look at what is holding me back. A big part of that upside was actually your cacao ceremony at a retreat.
Oh, for a little bit of background, Natalia, who is Cole's partner, I are both yoga teachers, and we run a yoga retreat in Oxford, Connecticut. And our retreats are creative retreats as well. So they're meant for this creative community. Yeah. You can come and journal, play music, do art. We have all kinds of like creative activities for you to participate in. And one of the things that we provided was a cacao ceremony where I led a little meditation or visualization. I
was there mainly as the chef. I cooked for 12
Nicole
people
was our chef
for an entire weekend.
And he cooked very well.
I found it very, very fun, very affirming. I was very glad people liked the food I made.
We did.
So I didn't really take part in a lot of I didn't take part in any of the yoga or creative stuff just because I was working the entire time. Mm-hmm. And what downtime I had was playing music with people and this cacao ceremony. What I confronted in that cacao ceremony was a lot of connections and feelings of like betrayal and unworthiness placed upon me by realistically like one of my bigger collaborators that I've ever worked with. It's a person that I had a lot of respect for, still realistically have a lot of respect for, and there was a lot of respect withheld on their end for like my ability. And a lot of what fell off in needing to remove myself from that situation was 2 years of me gaslighting myself that I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Like actively sitting down in front of my computer with a DAW open in front of a fucking console, even though I fucking learned on a fucking SSL. I learned on a console. I know this is where I should feel most comfortable. And for 2 years, my brain just would not allow me to feel like I was deserving of that space or deserving of the knowledge that I had. And then that goes forward to then somewhat more recently, friends that I had from that space ghosting and just going away because opportunities were better elsewhere with the same person and having that same pain doubled down again.
Ouch. Wait, so this is your high point?
In that cacao ceremony, something ripped, that tower hit. And just I felt it crumble. There has been so much new creative energy that has been rushing forward.
Ooh, I'm so glad to hear. The heart project is working.
What has come forward is in knowing internally that I am not ready for the Faraday cage, that didn't change. But what did change was seeing all of the pools that I have not been trickling energy into. I have not been playing music with people as much as I realistically should in the spaces that I'm in. I haven't been making my own art for honestly like 3 years.
Right. You've been in kind of a hole.
I've been either helping other people make their art or just essentially gaslighting myself into thinking that the art I'm making is not well informed enough, whatever the fuck that means. And it's a lot of stuff that even if I talked with it with a professional, which this is a pro therapy podcast.
That should be on our stinger at the end,
This
too.
is a pro therapy
This is a pro therapy podcast.
Those were things that energetically my body was still not letting go of. Even if mentally I knew it was there. I'm a very heady person, but it didn't come from the heart. I've been scheming again.
Yay!
They're scheming right now. You opening your mouth timed up perfectly. That was beautiful. Everyone's horned up in Brooklyn.
Everyone is horned up here.
But I'm about to sell off some shit that I've been holding on to, just I'm going to need this when I'm doing this shit. No, fucking get rid of it. I'm buying instruments. I'm learning new instruments now.
Cool.
I'm getting back into producing stuff. I'm getting back into writing poetry again, which I didn't do since fucking college.
Ah, that's so exciting. And I totally relate to there being this dip. I don't know why. I think artists go through this where shit happens. You feel like there's something about your work that's not working, and then that paralyzes you. Or something about you that's not working, and it
paralyzed me for so long, and there's some degree. Last episode, there's also a ding that I kept in the episode.
I turned it off.
No, you're good. Part of that euphoric release was just it's been too long. This has got to go. Realistically, I'm not done grieving it, but I'm sick of grieving it at this point. It just needs to go, and if it ever wants to present itself again in some energetically affirming form, then I will give it the time of day.
I think just because we move on doesn't mean the things that we've been through haven't happened and don't continue to inform us. But as long as they don't continue to hold us back, and that's such an easy thing to say and such a difficult thing to do.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm happy that you're doing stuff.
It's great. So I'm in the next couple months. I might be an ambient slam poet.
Hell yeah!
Which is
God, that's actually so.
I'm getting back into drum machines and ambient synthesis.
That's very.
I'm getting
exciting.
back into just writing absurdist poetry and composing it on top of rhythm.
And this is what happens. You get the ball rolling, and then next opportunity happens.
It's crazy because
it just eats on itself. You put it out there, and something good comes back, and you just keep going off that momentum.
Yeah,
it's a really exciting time.
Natalia said offhandedly, my partner Natalia said offhandedly, maybe you should learn a new instrument. And my brain just latched. The last 2 weeks, I've been just looking into just what are things I'd want to learn. I'll learn this, I'll put it with this, and I'll combine it with this, and I'll do this on top of this thing. Have you seen that gif of the person just looking and the math is starting to go around them?
I love that one.
That happens with me when I'm working on someone else's art. When I'm producing for someone, when I'm engineering for someone, I'm seeing all the things and I'm in this flow state. I have not been able to sit down with my own thoughts and have that move around. But now with my own ideas, there's not a pretense in front of it anymore. where I'm actually just feel like, no, it's worth pursuing this. And then there's a whisper behind. It's like, you don't know what you're fucking doing. It's like, okay, so? And? I'm not going to know what I'm doing if I don't do it.
I mean, we were so much freer as artists before we decided to, take art so seriously.
This might not be my place to share. I've been helping your partner get into some music stuff as of late.
Yes.
Which is
the community is growing.
Which is in a very fun way coincided with me coming back out of my own fucking shell.
Makes sense.
But they expressed that imposter syndrome from them is a new emotion.
Oh, yeah. Because, he didn't really explore a lot growing up. So I think a lot of things, because of the way he was raised, but I think a lot of things in adulthood to him are very explorational.
Yeah. It's been really refreshing to have my bubble of self-doubt burst right as someone else is just discovering their bubble of self-doubt.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Everyone knows it. Right? You're not good at something when you first start, and you just have to get through that. And the magic starts happening.
There's also the reality of that feeling kind of never goes away, but you do consistently get better.
Yeah, I think recognizing yourself and how you've grown is also really important for that too.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the best at drawing figures, but when I look at how I used to versus how I do now, I'm like, hey.
Hey. When I look back at some of the art I made in college.
Yes. Oh my God. Interesting. So funny that you bring that up. I was just going to say, I'm very happy about all this for you because, it's great for you, but also because I like to be right. And
I like being right.
I like to be right. And there was a few people that I met in art school, and I met them and I just felt like this person's going to fucking do it. And no pressure. But you were definitely one of those people. Well, so the reason why I felt that way is, you just had that special something. No, it was because some people came into Pratt with a really distinct idea of what they wanted their art to look like and be. And compared to me, that felt miles ahead of where I was like, I know I can be good at art, but I don't know what I want my art to be.
Yeah.
I think you really come through in what you do.
Okay.
You really come through. I meet you as a person, I look at your work and I'm like,
yeah, that makes sense.
Checks the fuck out.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Jess, who's another one of, who's a guest that we're going to have on the podcast.
Yes, very excited.
You meet her and you look at her work and you're like, that checks the fuck out.
But I also felt that, and I think you've expressed that you also felt this about the same person. A little lad named Ethan.
Ethan! Basically everyone besides us from Pratt moved away that I knew. Ethan's now in Portland. Jess now lives in Pennsylvania. Everyone's spread around the earth.
For some reason we decided to stay here and suffer.
Yeah, actually I think Ethan's in Iceland right now. Anyway, Ethan's another one of these guys.
Pursuing their dreams.
You meet him.
What a loser.
He was an animator, actually. He was one of those animators.
Yeah. And he was a very good animator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where it's I don't know if they necessarily knew where they wanted to land at that moment, but they were fully capable of doing it.
Maybe we'll have Ethan on the podcast.
What would it take to get Ethan on the podcast?
His family is
might
here.
Never.
You want to know something really cute about Ethan's mom?
What?
And I'm like, you can cut this out because I'm airing other people's shit. Ethan's mom, instead of what the rest of us did, was just throw away all the crap that we made freshman year. She kept all of it, and it's wallpaper around her house.
Wow,
it's
that's actually...
Ethan's work is just everywhere.
I made a point to keep a lot of my work because I've always heard horror stories of artists who are just pining to even be able to look at their old work. That is a nostalgia that I know if I ever felt that would wreck me for a long time. It's an important touchstone to have those marks of progress.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd ever want to lose that touchstone, even though I don't look at it ever. I don't think I've looked at it since freshman year, but I know it's there.
Art.
Speaking of art.
Would you like to introduce our new segment?
So, our new segment for this podcast going forward from the audience.
We also could just do one big ass episode if we get enough submissions.
If we get enough submissions, we can do a call-in system. And when people are given an audio format to speak into, they just go. People will type and stop 2 sentences and be that's enough.
I thought it would be hilarious. We'd be who's your artist? And then they say it and then we hang up.
What Divisive Art Crit is we bring in pieces of art that we have a strong opinion about, and we know someone else might have a very different opinion of. We may love it, we may hate it, you may love it, you may hate it. No pretension, no words like juxtaposition and ennui. Substance, you said it best. Words of substance, words of human experiential substance.
Substance on wheat, like a sandwich.
You want to put wheat on a sandwich?
Substance on wheat.
Substance on wheat. That's my favorite sandwich at Subway. A sandwich artist will make me substance on wheat.
What is a piece of art that you have brought for me that you have a strong opinion
You want
about?
me to begin?
I mean, no, I could if you.
No, I can definitely begin. But you know what I'm going to start with.
Okay.
Because I've conversed with you and honestly anyone who's ever asked me, what's your least favorite art
Oh, okay.
piece?
Okay, I think I know what's going.
Which is not a common question. If I had a dollar for every time I've been asked that question, I'd have a couple dollars in my wallet, and it's weird because I'd have a couple of them. I have to be faced with my own small personal hell every year when Paul McCartney's Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time comes on the radio. And about a minute and a half in, I am put in a psych ward, personally, by synthesis that should be on an early 90s acid trip record to be in a fucking Christmas song, Paul. So I believe it was 1979. It was a single. It was a holiday record by Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney famously loves making these little one-off things since the Beatles. Some are great. Some are simply having a wonderful Christmas time. And we're here tonight, and that's enough. A wonderful collective message that realistically Imagine did better.
For listeners of the podcast, I would like to say that Cole's neck is all the way back. When he's as if he's trying to get away from the microphone.
Away from the microphone. When you think of a Christmas song, you think of like some sleigh bells, even if you're going to go into the Uber commercial 2000s. I don't know what I like for Christmas. That annoys me, but I can get over it. What I can't get over is turning on a Christmas song and immediately going dun 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 dun.
This table is not that secure.
And I am not secure when that song comes on. I want to run away. It feels like a sledgehammer has been taken to my sense of self. You like Christmas cheer? Great. Allow me to bash it in with a fucking hammer. There is nothing light or merry about this song. When Paul McCartney's voice comes in, it's like 50 to 70 takes of his voice stacked on top of one another. I assume one more tired than the last because the amalgamation is some hellish beast that is simply having a wonderful Christmas time. It doesn't sound merry.
It's actually really good.
It doesn't sound cheerful.
Impersonation.
It doesn't sound in tune. It doesn't sound like a person. It sounds like, realistically, dated AI to me.
Yeah, like
Nothing
really
about
bad AI.
Yeah, it doesn't sound, it gives me a panic attack. The holiday spirit shouldn't be haunting me. Paul McCartney is one of those three ghosts that sees Scrooge McDuck. Why did I say Scrooge McDuck? I meant Scrooge.
Your ghost of Christmas past comes through as just Paul McCartney.
The ghost of Christmas Paul.
The ghost of Christmas Paul.
This was in 1979. How some grandmother listening to her AM radio didn't bend over and hurl on the spot when it first came out, I don't know. When we joke about showing a Victorian child some of the art we have now, showing Paul McCartney in 1979 to a grandmother in the same time is the equivalent of sending them to a nursing home. I don't know how he got away with this.
With that being said, I love it.
Tell me how you appreciate the sledgehammer that is not Sledgehammer, the song, which is a great song, but Paul McCartney simply having a wonderful Christmas time.
I like that we'd prefer to listen to Sledgehammer.
I prefer to listen to Sledgehammer because honestly, it hits and not in the way that fucking Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time does.
Okay. I like Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time.
Now, do you like it to spite me? Or do you like it because you like it and I can respect you as my friend?
Let me explain. I feel, and I could be wrong, that it is one of the most self-aware Christmas songs. It's a joke.
Is it?
I'm Paul McCartney of the band formerly known as the Beatles.
I mean, at the time, I think they were still known as the Beatles.
Of the band currently known. Paul McCartney's Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time is a beautiful work of art because... So let's see if anyone agrees with my viewpoint here. And feel free to pause the podcast here and give a listen. I'm sorry if it offends you. It has everything I'm looking for in a Christmas song. Let me explain.
Okay.
I'm a Jew.
Attack. Oh!
Christmas music has never really done anything for me except be very repetitive and annoying. It, for me, encapsulates the spirit of Christmas in a very personal way. Where, like, I guess I get it. Like, a Christmas joy, it's a nice holiday, but I've never decorated a Christmas tree. Like, I don't really know what it's about. The Christmas music is just something that I listen to in every grocery store at a certain time of year. I don't really relate to it. And it's the same...
For some reason at the end of October.
And it's the same shit every year. And Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney is the same thing over and over again in one song. And it is very annoying. Just in one song. I think it is the perfect Christmas song. He says, I'm Paul McCartney of the band currently or formerly known as the Beatles. And this is the Christmas song that I make because it's funny that I'm even making a Christmas song. He didn't need to. And the fact that this exists and it was approved, like it was released, I think that's wonderful. It has like the shittiest editing in the entire world. And someone was like, let's fucking do it. It's like the equivalent of like a graphic designer who knows exactly what they're doing. Like, let's say the text is upside down. You can't read it. You don't know what it's advertising. The color palette is hurting you. And they knew that and it's a Christmas card.
So Paul McCartney Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time is the equivalent of a graphic designer using Comic Sans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can respect that viewpoint.
And it makes me laugh. And it makes me joyful.
Does it actually bring you joy?
And I think that might be the Christmas spirit, although I'm not certain.
I can accept your viewpoint because I'm a good, empathetic person. And you cannot be wrong because that's your opinion.
You're doing a great job.
Okay, that should be enough of me with my divisive art crit.
Okay.
Please move me away from the Christmas spirit.
So I think I try to put an upbeat spin on things a lot, but I want to let...
Are you saying I'm a negative person?
No, I'm saying I'm a positive person. Toxically, sometimes.
Okay, I see.
I want to let listeners of the podcast know that I don't love everything. So there's this little art movement that happened in the US in the 1960s. And we started referring to it as minimalism. It was great. It was great the first time someone did it. It was great. You displayed a ready-made. It was an object that had already had a purpose. It was like a toilet. You were Duchamp. You were killing it. You displayed it for the first time and you were like, this can be art too. Isn't that clever? Doesn't it just make you think? And that's great. The first time. Okay? You displayed a canvas. It was blank in a gallery. The first time. And you were like, this can be art too. Aren't I so clever that I'm calling this art? Doesn't it make you think? That's fine. I'm interested in your party trick. I go to the next party. You display the same blank canvas. Sorry, it's a different blank canvas, but it's the same idea and I can't tell the difference because it's blank and untitled. It's not interesting. Past the first time. It's okay. And fun art fact here, the first piece of minimalism that we called minimalism, it's actually not American. It was by a Soviet painter in 1915. It was a black square painting. The artist's name is Kazimir Malevich. It was very smart. The first time it happened and people were like, that's interesting. Let me think about that. Because like, what really is art? And
what is a banana taped to the wall?
Art can be this too. And that makes me think. Did it really make us think the 108th time that you created the same piece of art or similar. I'm talking Richard Serra. I'm talking Dan Flavin, right? I'm talking so go to Dia Beacon upstate. I'm talking all of those bitches. I saw one and I was like, wow, a pile of dirt. And that is at Dia Beacon, by the way. A pile of dirt. I don't know what the artist's name is. I did not bother to record in my memory the name of that artist. I was like, that's so interesting.
How tall was the pile of dirt?
A knee height?
Was there a hole near it?
No, just a pile.
Have you thought about the fact that there wasn't a hole near it? Where did the dirt come from? Did it make you think about where the dirt
came? They moved it into the gallery. As per the artist's instructions. So minimalism, again, the first time, okay, clever, great. Stop. It's not interesting. The next ready-made, the next object that you found and put in a gallery, it's not different from the first time. It's a party trick. If I've been to the party and I've seen it, it is not interesting to me anymore.
I, for one, much like you enjoyed Paul McCartney's magnum opus. Sorry, Mary opus.
Why is Mary not... Mary is less than magnum? Is that some kind of... Apologies to listeners of the podcast named Mary.
Have a magnum Christmas. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Yes.
I, for one, think a good work of minimalism can make you think about the spaces and the materials that it is in. It can make you think about the medium. Again, that pile of dirt, where'd the dirt come from? How would one have brought it into the gallery? Is it on white? Or is it on more dirt? Is it on grass? With no hole around it. You didn't defile the grass, but you just put dirt on top of it.
Okay. What does the second pile of dirt next to it make you... Or the next time this artist shows a pile of dirt?
There's more rocks in this one. And so this one clearly came from a more sedimentary area. It wasn't as curated. It was rough. It was coarse. The artist is clearly struggling to find good dirt.
I think if you have a favorite Richard Serra, you're dumb. They're all the fucking same.
I am being devil's advocate for the sake of the podcast to some degree, but I love me a Rothko. I love me a massive canvas painted to the point where I start thinking about the way it was painted. I love looking at a big swath of color and slowly realizing that, like, oh, there's where the end of a brush was. There's where it stopped. Oh, here's where they had to remix the color and it's slightly different here. And you start to see like the process of how it came to be. Even though it's a swath of color, there's more to the process of creating that. There's a chapel in Houston, Texas, called the Rothko Chapel. It is a white chapel with, I believe, 7 massive building size canvases that are just painted black. And there's no sense of time. You're not allowed to take out your phone inside of it.
No pictures kind of
deal. It's a meditative space.
Yeah.
You start to look like this is a cooler tone. This is a warmer tone. You can start to see like areas of fatigue where the painter kind of gave up on a certain technique and started doing something else. And it makes you think about not only the meaning of the work, which might literally mean nothing, but the fact that someone made it and put effort into something and had a process in doing it. If you can have someone sit there, like I sat there for a solid 30 minutes, not even realizing time went by, thinking about each individual like process of how that stark black built up over time, how each brush stroke changed over time, how fatigue took into place, how mixing different forms of black, because there were clearly different tonalities in it. You start to think about the artist and the medium over meaning itself.
Speaking of nothing.
Have
you heard about this trend, invisible art?
I was vaguely aware, but I had not heard the term invisible art until I was at your door and you sent me an article and then opened the door.
I don't know. It's like kind of like post-minimalism, I guess. It is very minimal because it is nothing. It is the most maximal form of minimalism.
It's actually the highest effort minimalism, not because it takes so long to do, but because of the mental hurdle. The mental hurdle is the harder part.
There was a sculpture created by the Italian artist Salvatore Gauru, and it sold for $18,000, and it was nothing. There was
a
nothing.
5 foot by 5 foot.
He did say it was 5 foot by 5
There's
foot.
installation instructions. Unclear about height. So I don't know if I could like put it in a 5 by 5 like Home Depot box.
I'm sure he thought of a height. So, I read a little bit about his intentions. He was like, oh, it's an exercise in the imagination, and it's, it's like a vacuum. It's like a void of
Do they describe what the statue is?
I think the nothingness was the intention. And then I thought about it some more. It annoyed me in the same way that minimalism does. I came around to it because I was like, okay, again, the first time this type of thing happens, like, okay, that's interesting. We're pushing the boundaries. I like when we push boundaries. But apparently it's a trend. There have been invisible artworks sold for over $1 million.
There's another artwork. I'm forgetting the name of the artist or the name of the art, but it was from the article you sent me. The actual artwork was the pedestal of the statue and the legal doctrine of its theft together.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I can't help but love that the art is the fact that it was stolen.
Yeah. I think with invisible art, there's a bit of a performative thing.
What performance do you think they had to put on to justify this column of air? Let's not talk about the aristocratic way that art curators like to throw money around, because we can get into some wild shit.
Well,
18,000 is chump change in a lot of ways.
Honestly, the fact that people throw money at this work is a joke.
But there's installation instructions. So clearly this joke has rules.
Right. People are participating in the bit.
People are participating in the bit. And it's a very expensive bit.
So the invisible artwork that sold for over $1 million that I was referring to was created by an artist named 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐲𝐝, and it is an invisible painting.
It's just not there.
It's just not there.
Is there a frame?
I know that this art, I don't know about this piece in particular, but I know that this artist also makes paintings with invisible ink. So either he doesn't make the painting, or
water?
Maybe, or
like the luminescent shit.
He says that he made a painting. You just can't see it.
Did you imbue this canvas with intention by making art on it?
Invisible art we're kind of out on, but this topic of his invisible art, I think, reminded you of an artwork that I think we both feel pretty strongly about.
Oh, erased de Kooning.
It's called erased de Kooning.
Which you actually have some more historical backing to. But what it is, to just give you an image of what this is, a piece of drawing paper that clearly something at one point was on it, and now there's no longer anything on it, and some remnants of what may have been on it before. In a frame. That's it.
It's an artwork by Robert Rauschenberg. And William de Kooning was alive at the time of its creation. They were apparently friends of a sort. De Kooning had given...
Acquaintances, colleagues.
De Kooning had given Rauschenberg this drawing. Rauschenberg had asked for it.
Right, yeah, without knowledge of...
Right. De Kooning had no idea what Rauschenberg was going to do with it. He was just giving his friend a drawing. Rauschenberg obviously erased the drawing, supposedly. And then in 1953, erased de Kooning starts being shown.
Yes.
De Kooning's reaction wasn't an offense that the artwork was erased. He had given his friend the art, and
it was him to do what he wanted with it.
Had no qualms about him erasing it. He had a problem with him showing it.
Yeah.
He thought that this was a sort of jibe or something that should remain between artists, and it should not have been professionally shown to public audiences.
They almost like opened the can of worms that is the invisible art trend.
And
like, if we consider this art, what do we now have to consider art? I've erased work before. I've found canvases on the side of the street, painted a prime layer over it, and then done something on it. Who knows what lengths that canvas that I found on the side of the street has. There could be story behind that that's way more compelling than just, this is de Kooning's sketch that I erased. There's also the element of, you talked about, like, de Kooning was doing great. This artist wasn't really struggling.
No.
This should not be notable.
It kind of like, it's gross to me also because it kind of makes it doubly famous. Like, if it was just a drawing of de Kooning's, it would be famous. If it was a drawing of de Kooning's that Rauschenberg had, it would be also famous. But now you're just kind of like rubbing it in everyone's face that like you can make it more notable by giving people less.
By literally like putting a feature on it.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of Taylor Swift's Snow on the Beach, where it's literally just Lana Del Rey in the background going, ah. You just put your name onto something that was already going to do well and didn't really add anything of value. In fact, in the case of erased de Kooning, you erased de Kooning.
So I think we're both a no for...
Yeah, I'm not a fan of erased de Kooning.
Yeah, erased de Kooning. No contention there. No argument.
That goes against my thinking about the practice and the process thing, and it goes right to, actually, no, I thought about it, and I don't like this process. This is divisive art crit, and we said we weren't going to have big words. I say it's bad vibes. Erased de Kooning is bad vibes.
Don't erase your famous friend's art if you're famous, and then try to get more famous off of it.
Like, if you want to do some, like, exquisite corpse between you and a bud, yeah, like, erase some shit. Pin it on their fridge.
That was de Kooning's opinion. This should have remained on Rauschenberg's fridge.
It should have remained on Rauschenberg's fridge. There's another piece of art.
Oh, yeah, it's come up on this podcast.
It has come up on this podcast. And to this day, I have my qualms. I used to be a lot more against it until I've been convinced by you off of the podcast, and it was the wrong time to be convinced because it should have been on the podcast.
So this is a work by Anish Kapoor. It was built in 2004 in Chicago. And Anish Kapoor calls it Cloud Gate.
And I hate the bean.
And if you don't know what the Chicago bean is, it is a ginormous bean made out of highly polished stainless steel panels. So I went to Chicago to see the bean. Fun fact about the Chicago bean is that this highly polished stainless steel sculpture
has to be highly polished.
On a regular basis. They close that shit.
I didn't know.
It was my second time seeing the bean.
Which makes sense.
God.
I should have known that they polished
It
the
might
bean.
even been my third time seeing the bean.
Who polishing the bean?
I go to see the bean at least every 3 years. The bean was closed, and I didn't know you could close a bean. They needed to polish
it's consent. You need to have consent from the bean. The bean was like, I'm not clean right now.
I'm a dirty bean.
I'm a dirty bean.
So my love of the bean comes from a really deep-seated appreciation for site-specific artwork. Artwork that works in the place that it's in. What's a good example that's not Anish Kapoor? Botero of Colombia. If you go to Colombia and you see Botero Palazzo, there's a bunch of Botero sculptures, and it is in this area of Colombia that used to be pretty wealthy, is now not. And these sculptures are about wealth discrepancies in Colombia. They are very fat people that are supposed to represent the greed of the upper class, and they are enormous, and they are surrounded by people in Colombia who are not wealthy.
Yeah.
This is now positioned in like a poorer neighborhood. So when you go to see this artwork, it's actually extremely touching because the point of it is very clear. If you remove a Botero from its context in Colombia, it's just kind of a fat chick. Well, that's cute. Like, we don't see a lot of fat chick art.
Was it one of the earliest forms of art, though? That?
Oh, yeah. Well, fertility figures. But these are different. These are gluttonous figures.
Gluttonous figures.
They're actually like anti-fertility figures in a way. Like, the women have very small sexual organs.
Yeah.
And so do the men, but very enormous bodies. In their context, they speak to the culture and history of the place that they're in. So my love for the bean is because I think there is no more genius site-specific artwork than the bean. The bean says, not only will I be in Chicago, but I will be Chicago. I will be bean in Chicago. All you can see in the bean is Chicago. You can see the bean from many angles, but you will only ever see Chicago in the bean. The bean says, look behind you, idiot. I am artwork about Chicago, and Chicago is behind you. It's a big reflection. It's distorted, so you can actually see much more of the city skyline in the bean than you can see by turning around. And if the weather is gray, the bean is gray. And if the weather is beautiful, the bean is beautiful. You cannot help yourself but being placed in Chicago by seeing yourself reflected in the bean. The bean says, I didn't need to be from here to appreciate Chicago, and neither do you. You can visit the bean, and you can see Chicago, and you can appreciate its beauty in me, for I am the bean. And that's why I love the bean.
See, this reasoning checks out to me entirely, and has changed my opinion on the bean since. And I wish I had had the crumb of my distaste for the bean fully intact. That's I have been converted to the bean.
I could see a devil's advocate argument for the bean that it is, if you're not a fan of minimalism, it kind of does fit into the category of minimalism. It's more like, abstract post-minimalism. And if you wanted to make, it's going to hurt me to say it, but if you wanted to make a relationship between the works of a certain Jeff Koons, kind of looks like a balloon animal, giant reflective sculpture. Yikes.
From a quick glance, and even having seen the bean the first time, I looked at it and thought,
it's just a fucking bean.
It's a bean. And I got close enough to also see a lot of like finger smudges on it, so it's just like it's a dirty bean.
Oh yeah, you saw the bean pre-polish.
What? I think it was like in October.
You were the last kid on the ice rink before the Zamboni. That's how you saw the bean.
Tripping over myself. I was catching strays. In thinking back to the last time I saw the bean, which was more recently than that, it is almost alarming how much of your surroundings you see in the bean. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're close enough to recognize
it's like a portal.
Yourself reflected back at you with the entirety of the Chicago skyline that's visible to the bean around you. It does inform you that you are here. And something about the shape also like showcases the ground and the perspective of where you're seeing it. If you're looking at Chicago from the water, do you not see Chicago at all? You just miss the Chicago part.
Would you rather see the Chicago skyline from a boat or from the bean? Comment below.
Are you a boat or a bean?
Are you a boat or a bean?
Inside you, there are two wolves, a boat and a bean. If we're going to get a little highfalutin in this divisive art critique, I don't necessarily think this is hugely divisive. However, I think it is often misunderstood. The bean is simply there to reflect back at you that you are in Chicago. You knew that. You came to Chicago to see the bean.
So the Botero example is a good one because Botero is a Colombian artist making artwork about Colombian history and culture, and they're placed in Colombia.
Yes.
The bean is less rich in that way. Do you know what I mean?
It's only as rich as what it's reflecting.
Yeah.
Another movement that I would like to bring forth that you say you...
You're so good. One of my favorite things about Cole is that they can mimic...
I'm not going to try for that high pitch.
I aspire to be as good at mimicking noises.
To be fair, I'm good at that noise because me and my partner have a chihuahua, so occasionally the chihuahua will go...
Listeners of the podcast, you cannot hear Karma the chihuahua growling right now, but I can assure you
that it's pretty damn close.
That's as close as it gets.
In existing for sake of existence, there's a movement that I love and can often be misconstrued and misappropriated with, let's say, a nihilism. The movement of absurdism. Absurdism. My minor was in absurdist fiction, absurdist poetry.
Things you can study in art school.
Things you can study in art school.
My focus as an art history minor was in specifically 15th century Italian Renaissance, Venetian Italian. Italian Renaissance art.
A kind of crazy cousin to nihilism, absurdism. Nihilism being, there is no point to life. There is no way life is supposed to work. You're not here for any specific reason. So what's the point? What absurdism is there is no point to life. You're not here for any given reason.
So be silly.
So what now?
Be just a silly, goosey girl.
Absurdism isn't even specifically about being goofy and silly. A lot of people can see absurdism being like it must be absurd. Mm-hmm. What absurdism does is make commentary about the absurdities that is existing.
Yeah.
Just by being here, there's already absurdities in everyday fucking life. Existing is absurd. My favorite author is Donald Barthelme.
See, I need to get more into this. I'm not well enough informed to make a strong opinion.
I bought this book before I even applied to Pratt. Little short stories. This is called 60 Stories by Donald Barthelme. One of my favorite works in this book is not The Balloon Man. It features a character named The Balloon Man, but it is called The Great Hug. The Balloon Man won't let you take his picture. He has something to hide. He's super heavy, Balloon Man. Doesn't want the others to steal his moves. It's all in the gesture, the precise, unpremeditated right move. Balloon Man sells the balloon of fatigue and the balloon of ora pro nobis, and the rune balloon and the balloon of the last thing to do at night. These are saffron, cinnamon, salt, and celery colored, respectively. He sells the balloon of not yet and the balloon of sometimes. He works the circus every circus. Some people don't go to the circus, so don't meet the balloon man and don't get to buy a balloon. That's sad. Near to most people in any given city, at any given time, won't be near a circus. That's unfortunate. They don't get to buy a brown, whole lifelong cherishable Sir Isla Berlin balloon. The balloon man will say, let them other people sell it. Let them other people have all that wet and nasty kid money mitosing in their sock. That camera you got there, mister, get away.
I can see this influence in your...
This has seeped into my toast in my own sock for the better part of a decade. And every single story in here is on the cusp of believable. This might be fancy, weird language being used, but at its core, all of this shit, fully possible. Mm-hmm. The fact that you're even commenting is like, it's sad that you've never seen a circus. It's sad that you're not even close to a fucking circus. The fact that we have a circus existing in the world, the fact that the circus is something you can go to and something that can be disappointing to not be near, that's absurd.
Strange.
We have been outside of our rock, if you believe that. People have gone to the other rock that goes around our rock.
I've developed a strong opinion.
About going to the other rock?
About absurdism.
Okay, but first, the fact that we've had the brain power to do that, but then also the fact that I can go to a circus and see someone jump, and I want to pay money to do that. And yet we've completely, fractured NASA as a program. But circuses are still a thing. We were a fish, and then a crab, and then we came out of the ocean. And they were just like, I'm going to walk about it now. Flopping along the sands of time. And then we made the fucking circus? And someone's selling a balloon at it.
I think what made absurdism possible is mushrooms. You need a big shift in perspective to see these things. I mean, a certain amount of just disenfranchisement with the systems that are here, it could also make absurdism possible. But having that perspective to be like, this is all kind of very silly.
So this was actually my thesis, was absurdism is pure perspective. Bartholomew's way of doing absurdism is write something in a way that makes you think about the way you're even reading the story. Mm-hmm. The reason I bring this up after the bean, because what is the bean other than forced perspective? You came to the bean to view Chicago. You went to Chicago to view the bean. Why are you looking to a bean to turn the fuck around?
It is quite absurd.
It is absurd. It is a form, in my opinion, the bean is a form of absurdism. And I didn't realize that until you explained your side of it to me. I admire the bean now. And I wish I had the moments where I didn't to share on this podcast, but I don't. They're gone now.
This is actually crazy. So you've kind of actually just witnessed a proper art critique in a traditional sense where we've talked about something for long enough that now we're making connections between things that inform the greater whole of the parts that we've been speaking about.
That is legitimately what an art critique ends up being. I think it is important to look back and see other people's perspectives on the world.
Oh, it's terribly informative.
It's terribly informative. It's terribly revealing, and it's terribly vulnerable at times.
Yes.
And we wanted to make
If you haven't been through art school yet and you don't cry at one of your critiques, you're probably not normal.
So I'm just like, I can take that critique.
A lot of that frustration, by the way, comes from having an intention and trying so hard or feeling so connected to something where you're like, I really made this with this in mind and this is what it means to me. And it means something very special to me. And then putting it in front of people and someone says, is that a unicorn?
And that's why we want to have this divisive art critique where it's a safe space to be like, does a piece of art...
Safe space except for Anish Kapoor. Who else did we talk about?
I said it's a safe space to share the art. We will not critique you liking or disliking it because realistically, that's on you. My job is to form an opinion on it now.
Yes. If you enjoyed this segment, help us keep it going.
Yeah, send us stuff on Instagram at Raser and Rhodes. Raser with an S, Rhodes with an H.
RASERANDRHODES.
RANDRHODES.
Or just comment below.
I'm putting so much effort into learning how the fuck YouTube shorts work as of late.
You have.
And I accidentally published something at 3 a.m. this morning instead of 3 p.m. It did better than any time I've done something at a peak time, and I'm back to not understanding how YouTube shorts work.
So we will be publishing everything at 3 a.m. from now on.
Wake up! You're publishing a short!
It's time to watch the numbers.
It's time to watch the numbers, Cole! It's time! We would love if you join us for what is to come. We would love if you liked, subscribed, and helped us and joined our community so that we can continue to put love and effort into this podcast and bring it to you and bring on cool people, maybe even you. Bathroom break!
See you in a second. So, if you didn't know, on Practically Happy, which is a podcast with us, Cole
That you're
Raser,
listening to right now.
and Abby Rhodes, that is me. Cole Raser is you.
That is me.
We do this at the end of each podcast where we pull from the tarot deck, and the tarot deck is a magical deck of cards from which we glean meaning. On the podcast, we use it to get some insight into our creative pursuits. Cole has graciously in the past given me a creative consultation, which was a reading that really helped me out in my own creative journey. So for the season finale of Practically Happy, I was thinking that I could give Cole a reading.
Now, it is important to note that you don't know what the fuck's going on.
I have very little background or knowledge about this deck other than the readings that I have seen. So, without further ado, to close out this season, I will start by shuffling the cards.
Divinate. So she's now taking the cards and she's kind of just jamming them together and just kind of like wiggling them around next to each other. I don't really know if they're really going anywhere, but things are falling though.
That's important.
Is it one card?
Yes.
If one card fell,
That's important.
then that's important.
Okay. I do know that you have to be intentional, so I'm
You also
going
do have to talk into the microphone whenever you want to be heard.
I am going to resume shuffling, but this time intentionally.
Okay, my intention is a lot of my energy has been unleashed from the past 2 years of self-doubt and honestly a little bit of self-hatred. Where does it go from here? Now that the beast has been unbuckled, where does the water flow?
Oh no!
Oh.
I looked at the bottom of the deck.
Oh. Ah! For those of the podcast that can't see it, well, that's the groundhog.
I did take a peek at the bottom of the deck after I was done shuffling, and it was the tower, which
we had talked about literally this episode.
I agree, and now I'm going to ask Cole to choose 3 cards.
I kind of want this one. This one's like nagging at me. Oh, you pesky little bitch. So the cards have been picked. I know that the tower is my groundhog card, my shadow, which, given the fact that I've already... You know what? Wait, this isn't my job.
Okay.
I'm taking your job.
So now I'm going to...
Divinate for me!
I'm going to flip over the cards. Facing... So just flip.
You just flip them.
Okay, I'm just going to flip over the cards. It looks
we
like...
got the 5 of Wands.
It looks like...
The 5 of Pentacles. And we got the 10 of Wands.
And then it
In reverse order than that. It is the 10 of Wands, the 5 of Pentacles reversed, and the 5 of Wands upright.
And then our fly, which came out while I was shuffling, is the Hermit.
So yours is the Hermit. I think, why am I giving you more input?
Yeah, you already gave me a lot of information. You called this the 5 of Wands. I would have called it the V of Sticks. And that's, wait, is that the first? You're facing this way. So actually, this one's the first one?
Yeah, the first one would be the guy with...
Okay.
The guy with bushel.
So there's an X of bushels. You're this guy, and you're carrying away a bunch of bushels, and they're wands. So what this means is that you got all your tools, and you're kind of like burying your head in them because you know what you got. You got them good, and you're walking away from the viewer. That's what it looks like to me in this card. That this character is walking away with this bushel of wands, and there's so many. You got a lot of tools. Did you know you have so many tools?
Got a lot of sticks.
You got a lot of sticks. And you like your sticks. You know them pretty well. You got a lot of...
I'd say I've seen a good amount of sticks that I like in my time.
Yeah. But you're walking away, and it looks like you're walking towards some kind of like town or dwelling in the distance, but you're not there yet. So you got a long ways to go. So you've left your sort of like home or comfort zone behind, and you have your tools, and you're going somewhere, but you're not there yet. Okay, so that's what this is telling me.
I got my sticks and I'm coming.
Away.
I'm going.
You're going. So
Am I
these dwellings in the distance strike me as the place that you want to be. And the distance strikes me as how far you have to go to get there.
Got you. Okay.
To the next card, we got 2 bitches in the snow. 2 bitches in the snow outside a church. And that's kind of sad, but it's upside down. And with these 2 bitches in the snow, what we have is we got a broken leg. I didn't even see that. Okay. These bitches look real upset. But it's upside down.
Do you think being upside down with a broken leg is better?
Well, you're seeing it from a different angle, you know?
Perspective.
But you might be in the shit right now. But as long as we keep that other perspective where things could actually be upside down instead of how they seem, you're going to be okay. But you're in the shit. Oh. No denying, you're in the shit.
There's no denying you're in the shit.
So now we move on to that last card, the V of Sticks. It's a 5 of Wands, I've been told. But the V of Sticks, it appears to be a group of gentlemen beating each other. But they seem happy about it. So this, to me, it seems like a community. It seems like camaraderie. It seems like that the strife and hardship that you might experience by being distant from your goals and by, some upside-down broken legs. So not right side up ones. Again, keep that in mind.
Oh, I got you. Sorry. Very different perspective.
So the good news.
I don't need my legs if I'm upside down.
You're gonna be able to share these sticks with people, and these people are gonna have fun with you with these sticks, and they might sometimes hit you with the sticks, but for the most part, you guys are gonna have fun with that, and that's that. Okay, so. The shadow of this whole reading is the tower. So we went from guy holding a bunch of sticks. He's got everything he needs and he's moving towards his goals. It's going to take him a while to get there. He's going to go through some shit in the meantime, upside down shit though. So keeping that good perspective in mind. And then you're going to find yourself in a place where you can share all these gifts that you have with other people. And that's going to be nice. Okay. So the tower. So this is just the deck saying, I know this reading's about you, and you know what you're going through, and it's saying that all good things can come from all bad things, or whatever. Moving on, got one more card to talk about, and I think it's talking about me. And in this card, it's labeled the Hermit. It literally says that underneath, so I don't have to do any divination here. It says it's the Hermit, so it's calling me a hermit.
You got like the EA, that combined EA, hermit.
The hermit.
The hermit.
And in this reading, we have a hermit.
Upright hermit.
An upright
both legs
hermit.
workable.
This deck likes to throw hands. And I think if I was to analyze this from that perspective, you seem to be moving towards community in a beautiful way. Like your efforts are more towards something with other people. Versus I sometimes... I can be like introverted, or I can think I'm on my own and not participate in community as much as I need to. So maybe I should also direct my efforts more towards something that involves sharing my gifts with people around me than keeping them to myself. So that's what we got here. Giving respect to the length you have to go, like the distance that you have to go, and paying respect to the things that you're going through now, acknowledging the struggle is in fact real,
yeah,
but believing in this working, and that all of these things that are happening now are in fact for a reason, as opposed to maybe what your absurdist novelists might be more inclined to feel that nothing actually happens for a reason. I think what you're building on now will bear fruit. And the fruit will be men beating each other with sticks, but liking it.
Oh.
But they like it.
But they like it.
But they like
joyous
it.
beatings
Yeah.
of men.
Yeah.
Men
You'll be there
joyously
too.
beating.
You'll be enjoying
I'll
it.
also be there.
Yeah.
I'll be within
You actually gave them the sticks.
I gave them the sticks. There's half as
You're
many
giving
sticks.
other people your
There's
tools.
half as many sticks than when I brought there. What happened to the rest of my sticks?
Now, some bitches didn't deserve your sticks.
But they took the sticks?
No, you kept some.
Oh, but I only gave a certain amount of sticks to a certain amount of people.
You gave some bitches some sticks because they deserved it.
Would you like to know what this reading actually reads
I would.
as?
Meow 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 meow. I'm giving you something to be.
I'm terrified. Meow 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 meow. You tell them I gotta cut this.
It becomes part of our jingle.
So this is for the 10 of Wands,
which is also known
stick man walking toward house guy.
The X of Sticks.
We see here the great Wands problem. The fire energy acts without thinking, takes on new problems simply for the challenge. But these situations or responsibilities do not go away when the person becomes bored or wants to go on something new. They remain and can swamp the fire that seems to conquer them. In such situations, the burdens may not be wholly real, or at least may be avoided. They may in fact serve as an excuse to avoid doing anything really constructive, such as breaking away from a bad situation.
Very different meaning.
I think that one is the furthest you got, realistically. Because then we would move to the 5 of Pentacles reversed. Weight gives the meaning chaos, disorder, ruin, and confusion. This suggests that the situation right side up has collapsed. These people are no longer surviving. Where the immediate situation may seem much worse, it can sometimes lead to improvement. When people accustom themselves to suffering, a collapse may release them. Yeah, the leg is broken. They're 2 bitches in the snow. That's some cold-ass snow.
Well, upside down.
But they've got each other.
Cool.
So they're able to build new meanings and construct better places. They're in the shit right now.
But upside down.
They've got perspective now. Mm-hmm. And so the 5 of Wands is honestly very close to what you got. Again, conflict, but on a higher level. It is the nature of Wands to see life as a battle, but in its best sense becomes an exciting struggle, eagerly sought after. The 5s in general show some difficulty or loss, but the element of fire translates problems into competition, seen as a way in which people communicate with society and with each other. Like young people fighting, but not to hurt each other. Like children playing knights, they bang their sticks together without really hitting anyone. They seek not to destroy, but only to compete for the sheer joy of action. The laborious task of carrying these wands as far as they have, these passions, so that it can be played with by those you trust, to play with them out of joy and not malevolence. And so the Hermit. This book, 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack, likes to go really in depth on the major arcana, and if I was to read the entirety of the Hermit, it would take me a long time. But it does speak to the wand in its hand and the guiding light of its lantern. On one hand, it symbolizes a withdrawal from outer concerns. The person may physically remove himself or herself, but this is not really necessary. What matters is the inner transfer of attention from getting and spending, as Goldsworth called our worldly activities, to a person's inner needs. Therefore, it requires an emotional withdrawal from other people and from activities once thought to be all important. The card can also signify assistance from a definitive guide, sometimes as indicated above, a psychic guide from within, but more often a real person who will help you in your self-discoveries. Sometimes we do not ourselves recognize that such a guide exists for us. If the Hermit appears in a tarot reading, it may be wise to look carefully at the people around you. If you are involved in helping others find understandings, then the Hermit can symbolize you in a greater role as a guide and teacher.
Ooh.
On the whole, the Hermit is quite a positive card. I don't really necessarily see it as a negative card. It can have some negative connotations that you haven't done enough self-discovery to realize what has not yet entered your being. It is telling you that the cosmos have placed things around you to learn from.
Oh, cool.
It is now up to you to learn from them and be open to how each and every person is almost in a way their own hermit. The reading that you gave me, in large part, doesn't read wholly dissimilar from what you got. With the 10 of Wands being, I'm taking on a lot more emotional burdens than realistically are necessary for me, or good for me even. I'm taking it on all by myself. Why am I doing it by myself?
Right.
That fucker, that's too many sticks.
Yep.
It's one guy. I would say with the 5 of Pentacles signifies a little bit of that release I talked about at the start of the episode. That release of damping energy. Which does then lead to that fire returning again. that fire to create with people, to be with people who want to take part in that rush forward as the levee breaks. And the tower, I genuinely do think that's more of a nod in my direction. But again, like in the same way, the Five of Pentacles reversed signifies as being booted out from this holy space to create my own meanings. That's a very rattling thing to have to do, to accept that I am important enough to pursue, not just the things that came before me. And you were honestly, you were part of the reason that I even had that epiphany. You fucking fed me bitter ass hot chocolate.
Yep, I did.
And told me to think about my higher self.
Well, I think for like something like cacao, which is a heart opener, it's like a good time to like look inwards. But I can see how the visualization that I did could have like brought up shit.
Yeah, it was good. It was something that needed to happen. You didn't do a bad job with your reading.
Yay!
You channeled the greater message. That was season 1.
Maybe I should do this more often.
Maybe we should get you a deck.
Just be like, all right. So now we got an upside down rainbow. And
is that the Ten of Cups?
Smiling.
Yeah, Ten of Cups. The joy of family.
Aww.
That joy is expected from life. And because
so.
everyone's together, it won't be wasted.
I think your deck wants us to improve. I think your deck is also really happy that we're doing stuff together.
Yes. No,
it's got strong opinions on both fronts. That was season 1, dude.
That was season 1.
Can't hear a fist bump.
You can't hear a fist bump, so I'm going to add a little sound there. It's probably not the sound you expected. That was weird, wasn't it?
Make sure to subscribe to Practically Happy wherever it is you listen and watch. And stay tuned for more updates. You can find us on Patreon and Instagram. Raser and Rhodes, that's us.
And you're you.
And have a good day.
Get out of here!
You need to start saying this is a Faraday cage production in the fucking podcast.